pass from Havili was magic. The shift on for Crotty. Boom, far down you go, Quackett Smith. Me, oh my, I have enjoyed that. Yes, boy.
Sit back, relax, put your belt on, enjoy the show.
So, with the main course, we have the game 2 of Australia versus France played at AAMI Park, this time in Melbourne, tomorrow night. So make sure you listen to the podcast right before kickoff, surely. It's going to be a chance of rain, I think morning rain to just make the field a little bit more dewy, but maybe some rain in the evening, and then 20 to 30 kilometre an hour winds. I think originally it was meant to be played in Newcastle, but they've moved it because of the Sydney lockdown. Is that right?
No.
Or is that the first one?
The first one was in Sydney.
Right.
First one was at the SCG. We were possibly going, but as we've already disclosed, some of our Queenslanders brought COVID down. They wanted the game. So I was going to say the game down in... Have I just forgotten my question that I had 1 second ago? That's amazing. Let's move on.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump across into this Wallaby side. Harry, so amazingly talented. No, now he's changed it to France. We'll go across into the French team. That was very smooth of you there, Harry. So the Les Bleus. There's 3 debuts this weekend for Les Bleus. Fabien, what's the name? What's the surname, Kagi? Galtier. He's kept an unchanged back line, but rejigged that forward pack. Didn't think that they, were good enough, I suppose, for Australia. Or maybe he just wants to get more talent out there, like he was saying. This is some good stuff you've got here on the screen, Harry. You've even highlighted who's the same from last week. This is some talent you've got there, mate.
Yeah, mate, you make this graphic design look so hard. I pulled this all together in about 15 minutes before.
PowerPoint's finest, right here.
Look, so you can see, obviously, as Nelson said, no changes to the back line on the starting or the reserves, but huge changes. We've actually got 5 changes to the starting forward pack. So if we roll through them, you've got this Gross and Barlow, the same at 1 and 2. You've got a new man, Hunk Patin, is that it? I can't believe I've nominated myself.
Patin, yeah. Look, I'm not sure. Wilfred Patin, big boy, 6'3", 130 kgs, getting brought in. Seems like that's getting brought in to trying to counter Taniela Tupou.
Well, I think it's funny. Like they thought they were playing a bit of chess, and they were moving Bamba to the bench because they thought Tupou will be on the bench. They're like, we'll bring on Bamba against Tupou, and then we've one-upped it. We've swapped it up. So they didn't see that coming. Even though they announced their lineup after us. But
this guy's even bigger, mate. This guy is bigger than Bamba.
They've also got Enzo Folletta, 120 kilo Montpellier prop on the bench to come on at loosehead as well. So they've got some units in their front row.
Yeah, they don't want to repeat the mistake of the bomb squad last week. So they still know they didn't have enough in the tank for Angus Bell last week. So now they've brought Folletta in to try and tame that beast.
I'm not sure. I was looking at his games over with Montpellier. He seems to start maybe half the games. They seem to kind of rotate their forward pack a lot over there in Montpellier. So he's pretty. I think he's pretty inexperienced. I'm not sure he's going to be.
Don't forget how many games they have in their season. 20 odd plus games. It's quite a large season with bigger squads.
But they literally he starts 1 in 2, 1 in 3 games. They really rotate through their front row.
Yeah,
very odd.
Well, we also have 2 new locks starting this week. France has gone for the old tried and tested, proven 4 locks in the team lineup, in the team list. Just obviously a very well-known and well executed strategy. It'd be pretty close to... It's interesting that only one of the 4 locks, young Pierre-Henri Azago, who has been known to have a go. He has a go. Apparently he's very, very good. 22-year-old. He's the only one who kind of could also play back row. He's played a bit of back row in the top 14 as well. But otherwise, they've got 3 massive locks. So it's interesting having 4 locks. I mean, clearly we know how they want to play with their 6-2 split. But when you put more back rowers in, what's the deal with this, Nels? What do you think?
Oh, mate, look, it's interesting. I think they're really trying to target the line out, put a bit of pressure on Brendan Panga and Mosa. If they can, get a bit more dominance. We had a couple mistakes, I think lost 2 of our own on the weekend. If they can put a bit more pressure on us throughout the line out, I think that game's very different for them. I think set piece is a massive thing for them in this one. They're going to really have to work hard in the scrums as well. So some bigger bodies around the park and bigger bodies on the bench. But Pierre-Henri, the man you were just touching on, their coach Gaultier said that he is a discovery. And quoting him, he says he plays in the shadows. He is a worker, very active, who shows a lot of intelligence and doesn't play for himself. He can be another revelation on this tour. So that's pretty big. I think they're talking him up a lot as a young 22-year-old lock coming in who can sort of cover maybe back row as well.
Hopefully he plays for the Wallabies this week. If he doesn't play for himself, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. He's 1.98 meters and 107 kgs. So obviously he can put some weight on, fill out that frame a bit more. But yeah, they've talked about him as a bit of a Maro Itoje type player. So can fill a little bit taller, but can fill that lock or 6 role, I guess. So yeah, excited to see how he goes. But still interesting having 3 big locks. So anyway, they're it's pretty cool to bring on their 2 starting locks from last week, bring on these 2 enormous blokes to see out the game.
And wasn't Teo Whakanua a big unit as well? I think we got to see a little bit of just how destructive he could be as well.
We did. I talked enough about him last week, but was equally excited to see his bomb squad role this week. Sorry, actually, I'm not calling them the bomb squad. We're the bomb squad. Okay, that's only the Wallabies bomb squad. Els, do you want to take us through the back rowers?
Yeah, mate, we'll just jump straight across into that 6 jersey. Ibrahim Diallo, he's making his debut from Russing 92, 6'3", 108 kgs. And then we've got Cameron Wokey from Bordeaux, a similar style and structure to last week's number 8, Sekou Makalau. He comes in to, I think, really boost that line out. There's a lot of talk about him being a very good line out jumper in the back row. So that he can put that pressure on Brendan Payne-Mosa, as we're touching on. And he's supposed to be very dynamic in the loose, getting involved, similar to what I suppose we expected from Anthony Gelange, running around, throwing some offloads. So that, for me, that back 3 in the scrum looks pretty exciting.
I figured it out. You apply the Islander O or OU sound on these names. It's Sekou Makalu instead of Sekau Makalau, mate. But
I felt like I knew it, but I was going for it anyway.
Look, I love it. No, but I agree. Wokey was great, I thought, when he came on. Very similar player to Makalu. He made a few big hits when he came on. Didn't make many runs, but yeah, it was a force in the line out, made a few big hits. So another big back row. And Gelange at 8. Last week I said Hooper's going to be having him for Gelange. No, mate, he was great. As we said, probably the player from the French team and absolutely a fantastic ball runner. So he'll be good for mate.
And it should be said as well that Wokey and Cyril Kazoo, one of the new locks, plays together over at Bordeaux as well. So if you're talking about Wokey having an opportunity to make an impact at the line out, he's at least got some combination there as well. So although it's a young team, they have been smart with how they're kind of constructing this pack.
Yep.
Absolutely. Anyone else? We've talked about the benchies.
That's it, mate.
Yeah, let's push through. Well, just to quickly highlight, did we learn anything in particular, do you think, guys, out of the back line here? I think Villiere, the left winger, some big raps after the game. He obviously ran a really good line for that second try from the French. We saw there exactly what we expected, their ability to counterattack and step. They're quite agile, sharp players on their feet. I don't think we learned a huge amount new, though. Do you?
Well, look, I don't think there was a great game for them getting involved in certain parts of this. Arthur Vincent didn't seem to have an impact that we thought he would. He was that captain from the under-20s, led them to some great success. And Penard, the winger, the right winger, we just did not see him be able to get injected into this game. So I think he's going to have to work hard. Apparently, he's a very unique winger and that he just needs a license to do whatever he feels like. Yet he didn't seem to get himself involved in this one.
Yeah, he just didn't get the ball much out his way. But no, I think for my big questions were around, and I just hadn't seen enough of them, but around Jonathan Dante and Vincent. And I thought they were great, particularly Dante. But I thought these were huge shoes to fill with, the likes of, Gael Fuku and Verimi Vakatawa. I mentioned some of those centres that are just fantastic. But these guys were really good. And I really like Dante.
One of my questions out of this was they didn't bring Boutier on, Anthony Boutier, who apparently had a very good Six Nations at fullback. Instead, leaving young Jaminet on at fullback, and he was the one that threw that kind of wild pass right at the end of that game. There's been a bit of pressure heaped on him after that, but very strange that they didn't decide to bring on their more experienced fullback at any point in that game.
Yeah, and it was after he made a few mistakes as well, Jaminet, like a few, kicks off the side of the boots that put them under pressure. Interesting. I think he's a player they must see they really want to develop and just they see as needing more time in the saddle. But he's the player, of course, that came from D2, had never played in the top 14 or Test footy. So, hadn't played much Test footy. So
big step up.
Yeah. Anyway, you're right. It's interesting not to bring on Boutier, but maybe this week. So.
Yeah, that good in the 6. I thought he was the reserve. Isn't Dulin there 15, or am I just looking at a single game?
No. Boutier is their fullback reserve.
Yeah, and so same as we said.
Fullback, right? Like he's not the normal starter though. Dulin's their normal starter.
Yes.
Yeah,
he's in their top team. Yes. Yeah, Dulin. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, same backs on the bench as well, in case we didn't mention that already. So yeah, same back line altogether, just a whole bunch of new forwards out there.
Mate, this is enough on that, French. So let's jump into this Wallabies side. We're still looking at one potential debut, Len Ikitau, but the same... Get him on, mate. I agree. But the same game day 23 for the first time in consecutive tests since Dave Rennie took charge early last year. What do we think? Do we like the pick and stick idea? Harry, what do you think of this?
Well, I think we all agreed that he was going to have to make some changes in the second or third test. We all thought the safer way to play would be to change up the second test, make sure you roll the dice with the third game, a decider if it does get to 1-1 with your most experienced side. So he's taken a little bit of a risk by doing this. But having said that, there's some big positives there just to get some continuity in a team that is trying to find its way. And I think, the last game really showed that needs to happen. They played a lot better as the game went on. Every single quarter, I think they improved. I think we could all see that. So yeah. I can understand why he's done it. But God, I think we're in up the creek. If we lose this game, we're going to have to make some big changes for game 3. So
I
nail it home.
I think some changes are definitely coming for round 3. By all reports, James O'Connor has been cleared medically fit for this match if he wanted to play. But Rennie said he's underdone, in quotation marks, not ready for this one because he missed a few games at the back end of Super Rugby, came back through training, got injured again. So I think we're going to see this 9-10 combo of Tate and James O'Connor in the third test, give James O'Connor that little bit more time. And I quite like the idea of backing some of these players, giving them a chance to prove what we all expected from them a week ago. The people that, we expected to stand up a little bit more, like Gordon and players along those lines, are very good players, deserve this second chance. And hopefully this is going to be really good for their confidence. Kagi, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, look, I think last week some pick and stick would be good. I think it would have been a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to just try and throw O'Connor back in, particularly if he's a little underdone. And so I like backing Noah Lolesio I think that goes a long way for his confidence. Similarly, I think Jake Gordon, didn't have a ripper by anyone's accounts, but I think there's been a lot of calls for everyone saying, Tate's the best halfback in the country, get him on. I don't mind holding Tate back, bringing him off the bench. I think he probably is, the most skillful halfback in the country, but I think it's
the most skillful halfback in the country.
The most dynamic.
Or has the most dynamic with the highest ceiling of potential. He's not the most skillful, mate. That's the biggest criticism on him. His kicking game and his passing aren't up to scratch.
Yeah.
I wanted to not say the word best, and skillful was just what I thought of next. But,
yeah, that's right.
Going on.
Not all right.
I think Jake Gordon, what people weren't saying is, yes, he didn't have a great game, but I think the leadership that he brings there. So I think, if Nick White was available, he'd clearly be starting. But I think having Jake, you can't have a young Tate McDermott and young Noah Lolesio.
Gordon is very talkative on the field as well. If you ever watch his highlights and when he's mic'd up, he's very talkative in defence and attack, calling forwards out. So I think he's there for that role as well. Look, we've only got that one change this week. We've got Taniela Tupou coming in with a rotation for Alatoa. I don't think that's a swap just because of form. Apparently, Rennie was saying these two were always going to tag team and share the load. So this gives Taniela Tupou the chance to see if he can lock down that number 3 jersey. But look, Taniela definitely made a lot of impact last week. For me, that proved maybe that he's perfect as that bench spot, but I want to see him get this chance in that number 3 jersey.
Well, the thing we know about Daniela is that he can play 80-minute games. We've seen him do it week in, week out for the Reds. And yes, Test match is a step up, but to be honest, I don't think it's really going to phase him. But I think what you got to do is this is Test.
He's not going to play 80, mate.
I was going to say, mate, you're saying he's going to play 80?
He's not going to play 80, so you're going to have to say, Nella, leave it all out there on the field, mate. You're coming off at 50 minutes. Give us one hell of a 50. So. It is exciting, but also I think just the damage he did in the set piece when he came on was unbelievable. So starting with that, I think it's very simple. We want to start better this week, and how do we do that? We nail the set piece from the start, from the get-go. So very simple solution to otherwise keeping the team unchanged. I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, touching on that, Guggy, I think you're saying we need to start better. Let's jump across into the Wallabies and what we need to improve on this week to get the win. I think that was one thing for mine. We already talked a little bit about Jake Gordon, but look, I think one thing is he really missed a beat on taking his chances to run with the ball. There was a high line speed from the French. Tate McDermott, as soon as he came on, he really highlighted that those spaces and those gaps were available there if you reacted quite quick. So I see Gordon to sort of try to bring that back into this match and then hopefully bring Valentini, Wilson into the game a little bit earlier. But one thing, tell me if you guys agree, but there's been a lot of talk about Gordon, a critique about him stepping sideways a few times before he passes the ball. I went back and had a bit of a watch for him for the Tars, for the Wallabies. And yes, look, I think it is something he does. He moves laterally from the ruck, but I think he normally does that in a positive way. I think that's where he creates spaces for himself. He basically...
This whole argument was ridiculous. All that happened was that one pass Paisami went forward, and then that's when everyone started going, if he just passed it off the deck, the pass would have been perfect. Jake Gordon takes 2 steps to commit the man. The only reason there was a hole for that try was because of the fact that he took the man wrapping around. It's positive.
I think normally he's moving laterally. It is a really positive thing and one of the real strengths in his game. I don't think it's a negative for him. I think the one negative wasn't that he made that forward pass. I think that was just a misjudgment, but he didn't seem to attack the line. It was a misjudgment. He passed the ball forward, Harry.
Mate, the man that made a mistake there was Paisami. He ran too early, and then therefore when the hole opened up, he was in front of the ball. Jake Gordon tried to get it to him and sadly threw it to him. He shouldn't have passed to him because he mistimed his run. It was black and white.
No, it's not black and white, mate. It was mistiming.
What should Jake Gordon have done?
Just pass it one step earlier and he was through the gap.
But then he doesn't commit the man. The hole's not there.
He didn't commit the man that created that gap. He committed the inside man that was not related to the tackle. So, no, I don't agree with you.
Inside man, why the hole was there? Because he wasn't wrapping across.
Look, I think if he passed that ball a step earlier, it was through. I'm talking positively in general. I reckon that was a mistake a little bit by Gordon's timing. And yes, maybe it was the fact that they haven't played a lot. That's because you're an idiot. They haven't played a lot.
Regardless of that ball being forward, man, how good was that line by Paisami? I wish that was a try.
It was
a step early. Sadly, it was a step early. Yeah. It's easy to blame the passer, but the passer is the one that has to commit the man and put the ball through the hole.
Either way, I agree. Gordon normally commits the man with his run, and that was the whole point of what I was discussing here, Harry. That timing wasn't right, but it is the best part of his game is him moving laterally. It is not a passive lateral move because he can't make a pass. I think it is a very good lateral move because it is sucking a defender in. And normally when he creates a gap, it's not just next to the ruck. It often is running around that first defender and slotting around through that. Watching all his highlights is outside that first defender when he makes a lot of those breaks. So I think it's quite a positive thing, him generally moving sideways. There was a timing error. Sure, we can disagree who it was from, but realistically, if these guys played together often, it probably wouldn't have happened either. So maybe that's the biggest thing to highlight. So
I think it's pretty simple. I think we all know how Jake Gordon plays, and this is the first Test match of the year, and I think it is that step up to Test match footy where you do have just that one less second. Every breakdown, you just have a little bit less time and space.
Yeah,
and I think he'll come out much better this week.
I'd expect him to really fire in this one. He didn't seem to attack off the ruck really at any opportunity in this game. Tate did it numerous times very quick into it. So I expect Gordon to come out a little bit more confident and actually attack a little bit more ball in hand. And I think that will create opportunities for players around him as well.
And look, Tate, whilst I thought Tate was fantastic, he did come on at the end of the game with tired Frenchmen when all the momentum was coming for the Wallabies. Do you know what I mean? Like, that makes a hell of a difference when you're picking to make these little sniping runs and whatever. But
either way, Gordon can do that from the start of the game. And I expect him to do more of that in this one. I think it will open opportunities up for around him. It's easier to do it against a tired defence, but Gordon will do it and normally does do it from the start of a game.
Great. Now, we've spent way too long speaking about halfbacks because the least important position in the game. Let's talk about the positions that matter, the forwards. Valentini, mate, I wanted to see some more, and this is what I think he needs to improve in the Wallabies this week. We need some more Valentini. And I know it's a step up, it's Test match footy, but I want to see him impose his physicality on the French team. I want to see him put some bums on the floor, and he just needs to be getting some better ball for his carries. Every time he got the ball for a carry, he kind of got it not necessarily on the back foot, but without very much time and space, and usually running into like two blocks or props or something like that. So I think, look, whilst you can't always determine the ball you're getting on attack, what you can always determine as a player on the field is your opportunities in defence, right? If the game's not going your way, you could just get in there and smash someone. And I want to see more of that from Bobby this weekend.
We haven't heard him talk up the Wallabies being number one this week, so maybe he'll actually do some showing of it on the field. But yeah, look, he had 13 runs, but he just wasn't that physical presence that we were all hoping for.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no.
You've got 5, mate.
I'm with both of you. There's no excuse really. His game is built on physicality. He didn't bring it, so I hope we see more from him because he's had such a good year.
Now, Nelson didn't want us to shit on him for the entire podcast, but Tommy Banks, just vibing off Harry's mood here. I don't know. I think Harry and I are on a fairly same wavelengths here, and Nelson trying to...
I 100% am on the same wavelength.
Nelson wants to be positive. I want to be honest.
Hey, look, I wrote a couple comments and a couple posts saying, please never let Banks wear a Wallabies jersey again after that match. I think that's what I thought.
Positive one. Hold on. I thought we were doing good cop, bad cop, and you were good cop. I don't know.
No. But I'm trying to be positive. Let the guy try to find his form.
We're doing bad cop, worse cop, right?
This is like the Other Guys, the movie, where it's like...
Honestly, I think he is blessed at the moment that there aren't other Wallabies that are in the number 15 jersey in Australia. So
the one thing I would say is obviously he made a lot of errors in this game, which was incredibly frustrating. But the first error he made, which kind of set the tone for his game, was him kicking to touch. And geez, it was a small margin. We want him to back himself to kick long penalties, because how good has it been watching him do that for the Brumbies all year? So that one, once I cooled down a little bit, I could kind of let slide because of the fact that I want him to back himself, and I'd be more frustrated if he didn't have that exceptional penalty kicking game, kicking to touch. But there was just too many errors, wasn't there? Really was.
It's easy to forget how much we missed that. Do you remember when Bernard Foley, the Iceman, just kind of, when he cooled his jets a little bit after a few really good years, and every time we got a penalty and we're kicking to touch, for some reason we were settling for like 20 metres. That was it every time. That's all we could expect in terms of territory. And having that weapon of Banks, I agree with you. I'd rather him back himself because he can put it 50 metres down the field, and that's huge.
I agree with you in most part, but I think that is a pretty crucial miss. I think that had to go out. I think you've got to wear the consequence. You've got to wear the consequence.
you want him to kick long for the penalty or not?
Harry, I want that to go out. I want that to go out. I'm happy with him backing going long, but if he pulled that 5 meters short and it went out, it would have been a far better result for us.
So you're saying you don't want him to back himself? Like, don't get me wrong. No one is perfectly accurate. You either have to back him to have a crack or you don't.
Harry, what I'm saying is I love him to back himself, but you also have to wear the consequences of butchering a pretty pivotal moment early in that game.
How far out was he when he took that penalty, the kick to touch?
40 out or something, was he?
He was a long way out. So let's be honest, if he was playing it safe, most people are kicking it around the 22, maybe 20 meters out. That's still not a gigantic attacking opportunity.
It's better than them running the ball back. It's better than them running the ball back because it didn't go out.
I'm not saying it's a positive. I'm just saying you need to actually wear the risk if you're going to allow him to back himself.
I agree. The thing was that it continued to spiral throughout that match, and that really was just the start of it, which was unfortunate for him. But look, he has an absolute massive boot, and we really want him to use it for sure. I think backing yourself when you're in your own 22 and trying to push that extra meter is also a little bit different than, having such a pivotal thing go wrong early in the match. But look, it's a core skill for him. I really want to see the Wallabies using it more, using that boot from him, especially in their own 22. We never seemed to use it. Gordon was kicking all night and his radar was off, and we didn't seem to use Banks in open play.
So what I was going to say, he didn't have a great game, and all I kind of remember is, as a whole, he didn't really have a great game. And I know he made a few errors, but what specifically, I guess, what did he do wrong? So yes, not kicking for touch. I know he dropped the ball maybe once or twice.
He did out on the full outside his own 22, shanked a kick off the side of the foot.
He dropped a long clearance kick as well as Noah Alessio. They both did that, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so.
He was nowhere seen when they scored that second try. I mean, there's too many things, really.
There was a lot of things.
Yeah, the first 20 of the game, the skill level execution. One thing I was really looking forward to with Coach David Reddy coming in, and that he said was an absolute priority last year, was just skill execution, and he was just going to drill it home. I mean, I don't know how I keep getting excited every time someone comes in and tries to ram home skills. When we had Mick Byrne join the Wallabies a couple of years ago, who had been the All Blacks skill coach for about 10 years before that, I was super stoked. But I still don't know how, you watch, yes, it's the Wallabies' first game, but you watch them come out and how the skill execution is just not up to test match standard. I mean, you watch it's terrible that we're always comparing ourselves to the All Blacks.
Let's not do it.
And even the All Blacks, yes, they were playing Tonga last week when they played by a lot, whatever, but just the skill execution, the catching, the pass of the ball out in front, the crossfield kicks and whatever, it's always absolutely bang on, which is why they always capitalize on every opportunity. And we just don't. So I don't know what we need to do to get those skill levels up, but it's just there's too many unforced errors, frankly, for our test team.
Yeah, look, I think there was a lot of errors in that. I don't think you're wrong. Yes, we can say that first test of the year, and there was a bit of a gap since they played. The 9, 10, 12, 13 were all from different teams. None of that stuff helps, but really, we want to see some better skill execution when that's been something that's been discussed again and again and again. But talking about,
I was just going to say, in rounding out Banks, we've said we don't have any other 15s. Who else would you play? I mean, for mine, I would like to give Reece Hodge a go, but it's much of a muchness. Yeah, Hodge has got a great boot. Hodge can offer some other things, but I don't know. Like, do we have anyone else we could play at 15?
Look, I think at the moment we're pretty limited. There's not a lot of options there. I'd love to see Isaac Lucas brought back into Australia just so we have another name that can be thrown out there, because he is shown he's quite a talented player. Yes, he's still probably 22, a young player coming through. Reece Hodge, he's not an out-and-out fullback. He's a safe fullback, so he's there in case something goes wrong and we need to put someone else there. But I mean, although I was so frustrated last week with Banks, he's actually frustrated me for a number of years. Maybe it's because he has some real high highs and he has some real, poor matches as well. So I just hope that he gets backed now in these next two tests and gets a good chance to find some form, because if he doesn't after this series, I'd be looking for someone else.
Fair enough. All right. Moving on. What else we got to talk about? Where else can the Wallabies improve?
I thought, we
Take the wind out of the sails, boys.
we identified before the game that the short kicking game was going to be really important, and I think Noah Alessio and Hunter Paisami definitely came in with a tactic that they were going to have a crack at that. So that was really good to see that Rennie had identified that and had built a game around that as well. And I thought there was a lot of really, really good moments where they put some attacking kicks in behind and had a crack. I think the accuracy really needs to improve. There were probably 2 out of 5 of them would have been really good. 3 out of 5 of them left a lot to be desired. So I think that's an area where just accuracy needs to improve. But again, they're kind of those positive areas where I was pretty happy for Paisami to kick most of them. There was one where he put a cross kick in when it was about an 8-on-2 on the right-hand side. I don't know why he kicked that. So, decision making there, that's a problem.
They had an advantage at that point, did they not?
No.
Was that the one for Kellaway?
Yeah, it was. And it went over Kellaway. Look, I mean, if they went to hand, it looked brilliant, but they really did have an overlap there, and for me, it wasn't necessarily the right decision. If it was a good kick, I mean, you could say it was the right decision, but realistically, I think it is all about execution. It's not about kicking less. It's about executing those kicks. That, if that execution was on, we had 2 more tries. That one you said about Kellaway, and that one with Wright as well, who couldn't put that ball down.
What an unlucky bounce, seriously.
Yeah.
I think we've all taken the right attitude with that. I'm happy for Paisami to be adding this to his game. We've talked about Paisami. Paisami's at the very start of his career, and you can look at some great players like Ma'a Nonu, who started off in similar roles to Paisami, an excellent runner of the ball, very physical and whatnot, and slowly added layers and layers to his game, added ball playing, added a kicking game and whatnot, and by the end, we know the complete player that was Ma'a Nonu. Paisami's trying to put all these eggs in one basket very, very quickly. He's come off the scene in 2 years, been absolutely the hit man, making these awesome runs. Like we saw that try he almost scored last week with that awesome line. And he has, like for the Reds, we've seen him add some ball playing, particularly with all the injuries in their back line. And this kicking game is slowly starting to eventuate. So I agree, and I think Rennie has told him, I don't want Hunter to stop trying these kicks because we know he can do them. It's just he's just got to develop them, and they are. Hopefully they start coming off very soon. So
can I say the one exception? With a minute and a half to go, can we not put multiple kicks in behind the line?
I agree.
Moronic. Hunter Paisami just decided the only way they were going to score is with a short kicking game. That is one area where I just thought, man, we need to. For me,
it seemed like a little bit of a brain fade, and they've just gone, if we can kick this back into their 22, they'll try and clear it out. If we put pressure on, we've got the ball a little bit closer, but just play the ball. You don't need to try to gain 10 meters on the hope that you kick it to them and they make a bad kick. Literally, it's not high odds for me. You need to hold that ball and try to do something with it.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right, defense, improving defense. I don't know if we touched on that or not, but for mine, I talked about Bobby Valentini. I want to see him with some physicality. Likewise, the rest of the team. The French, as Nelson discussed, absolute line speed, and that's partially why our kicking game was there to get over that because they were cutting out the outside. I want to see some more line speed from the Wallabies. Again, spoke about in last week's podcast when they came out in the first test of last year against New Zealand and absolutely gave it to them. They got off the line like they were 100-metre sprinters. Harry Wilson, Tupou, all the boys out there absolutely hitting people. I'm really hoping that Tupou starting, but I want to see Tupou, Harry Wilson, and I want to see Valentini getting up there.
And Hooper, mate. Like to put a hit on.
Particularly, look, Harry Wilson has made it his mission to target Bone Barrett and Richie Mo'unga in last year. And what we actually saw, there was a clear game, one of the Bledisloe games, where after hitting Richie Mo'unga enough, they had gotten into his head. He was taking, instead of taking that extra forward step, he was taking another sideways step. And he was bringing the whole back line back a little bit. The very small, perceivable change that makes getting in the head of the 10 actually makes a huge difference. So Louis Carbonell, yes, he's a very confident young 10. But, mate, get in there and absolutely ruffle his feathers and remove some of that time and space, and that French attack is going to fall apart, I think. So that's what I want to be saying. Some Lions fan.
It's a fantastic goal. And we also mentioned the fact that last week we were saying how many hitmen this Australian team does have in defence. So we need to give them a license to go out and intimidate. You know, Rennie's talked about the fact that he wants to be physical. Well, let's let them go and do that. Put it on Valentini, Wilson, Hooper, Paisami, to Amua. These guys all want to put hits on. Just allow them. Give them the Cotton Betty. Like, all these guys shoot out of the line and smoke people. Let's just say free for all. Who can put the biggest hit on wins.
You know what? It should be like, this reminds me, great video from a friend of the pod and has been on the pod, Squidge Rugby, talking about the role of Peter Steph du Toit in the Rugby World Cup in 2019, and just literally analysing him. Peter Steph was given that exact role, free to roam and to pick people out and absolutely crunch them. He was just a nightmare in the back of every 10 and every 10's mind, most of the players' mind, really. But they gave him that opportunity by covering the rest of the defensive line. So if you shoot out, you're not leaving someone else at risk. They need the boys to have that. You need to have a player.
Yeah, I agree.
Have a crack.
Look, let's jump across what needs to change for France. I mean, we've touched on it a bit. There's been 5 changes to this French pack. I think Wallabies had a bit of an ascendancy in the scrum, which was made even more evident as soon as Taniela Tupou came on. Stats say we only won 1 scrum against the feed, but for me, I think we were clearly dominant in the scrum. We stole a couple of their lineouts as well, including that pressure on that final lineout. So for me, one of the big things for France are they just really need to solidify that set piece. I mean, at times our lineout, we had a really solid driving maul at times, and other times we won the line out and couldn't really do much with it as well. And I think it's similar to France. They really just need to make it a bit more of a weapon for them, make sure they can back themselves, kick the ball out, win their own line out, or back themselves with a scrum. Do you guys agree with that?
I agree. And I want to say, I haven't given him a shout out yet, but Slipper did an absolute job on Demba Bamba last week. He was absolutely frustrating him. And I think he got a little bit unlucky, Slipper, in a few times. I think we should have won some penalties. He really got into him early. So, but agreed. It's the set piece. France probably really needs to step up in that regard. I can't remember exactly how we went in the lineouts head to head, but
I can tell you right now, they won 11 of 13. We won 15 of 17.
Okay, well that's pretty good, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's my gold colour glasses. I thought we were the dominant side in the line out, but I think that's an area they need to attack more. I don't think that the scrum is going to be able to make up enough distance against what I think is a real strength for us. But the line out's been a weakness for us. I think if they can pressure us there, that's a real area that they can make an advantage for them. And I think that's probably one of the reasons we've seen them pick such a team that is so good in the air.
Yeah. Probably they're directly telling us what they're going to do, aren't they? They're like, here's 4 massive locks. We're going to win every line.
I mean, you've got back rowers that can jump and 4 locks, and we've got a hooker that notoriously isn't a solid line-out thrower. I think they're going to put some real pressure on him, so it's going to be a big one for Brendan Payne-Gramosa.
I think the other thing is for the French, they just need to work out how to get some field position. Like, they were piggybacked down the field by us in the first 20 minutes. And as we said, they got no field position for the rest of the game beyond that early kind of flurry that they had. They need to find a way to get into this game. Their defense is solid. Their line, I think, can be dominant for them. But how do they make their way down the field, which isn't just us handing it to them? That I don't know if they've got a really good idea about it. And I think probably one of the things that we all want to see is how they can get some of their strike power in their back line into the game. Damien Penaud,
Penaud.
It's actually just
Sorry. I think if they can get him injected into the game, maybe that's a way that they can get a little bit more attacking flair and create a little bit more of an opportunity to score some more points. He scored 3 tries in this year's Six Nations. He made the most line breaks, having made 5 in the French side as well. He is an attacking weapon. We've talked about the fact that he's very, very highly rated in world rugby, let alone in the French side. They need to find a way to get him into the game.
The
Mate,
French.
yeah, it's horrible. Don't say it again, mate. Don't make yourself look silly. Two pods in a
He's
row.
the French Nawanganaitawasi.
Yeah, yeah.
No, agreed. I think we talk about. It's interesting. We didn't really have the line speed, but the French did struggle to get it out wide and create that space, didn't they? So they need to find a way to do that. They do have the exciting, Jaminet and Pinot, but they've got to get the ball there.
Well,
Yeah.
I think they're physical as well, right? Like they scored that first try by Jalonche just getting through and getting his hands free and offloading the ball. They've still got a big pack. They've still got 6 forwards on the bench. I think that's got to be a real strength for them again. I thought they were probably dominant in periods in the ruck and slowing down our ball as well. If they can get quick ball, get their big forwards over the line and getting their hands free, it is an Australian side that will struggle to cover that kind of quick ball. They don't really cover themselves that well when someone breaks the line. So I think that's a real area for them as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they've got some bigger bodies in Dante in the centres. Use some of those guys in tight, and then quick ball offloads look real wide. I think that's what they need to do. Have someone on your hip. They're playing Fiji style rugby early on that one, so it'll be interesting to see how they go.
Yeah, excellent. All right, well, should we get to our tips now? Should we round it out? And we talked about our tips earlier for game 1. See how we're feeling about game 2. We've swapped up the order this week. Harry, mate, why don't you kick us off? What are you tipping the score for this game? You can just say, who's going to win by what, or you can say exactly what the score is again if we're going to go specific.
16 points to the Wallabies.
Win. That's a big win.
Yeah, 32-16.
Wowza. Look, I'm going to say 10 points to the Wallabies, 33-23.
Change it
Mate,
up.
33-23, exact same score as the last time. But I'll be right this time.
You guys have left me in the precarious...
Mate, just be reasonable and say less. Me and Harry are just clearly not paying attention to what happened last week.
What do you mean, mate? The French have got a whole new pack. The Wallabies got some continuity. We were dominant more as the game went on. This is an opportunity for the Wallabies here.
I agree this.
Despite me wanting to go big, I'm going to say the Wallabies going to win this game by 14 points, 2 tries.
That's still pretty big, mate.
That's pretty big, mate. How big are you wanting to go?
Well, sorry, when I say me wanting to go big, it means me wanting to go bigger than Harry. But I'm going to say 2 tries, Wallabies. Let's go 28-14.
All right.
Good.
Beauty. All right, well, look, that will round out the main course.